Okay, it looks like we have our participants in. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren Baines. I'm Vice President over at 43 North. Welcome to our, I think, 6th installment of our Small Business School. Today, we are joined by an amazing presenter, Alicia McCann, who's going to talk to us a bit about building your e-commerce presence, how to promote e-commerce on social media. Obviously now, with this pandemic, e-commerce is becoming more and more critical to business success. We can't rely only on walk-ins and in-person business. And so as online becomes more and more important, we want to help our business owners in our community learn what platforms to use, learn how to promote their online store. And so we're really excited to have Alicia here today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. And before we get started, I'm just going to set a few simple ground rules. We do want this presentation to be a conversation. So if you have questions at any time, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom feed. You'll see there's a button that says Q&A. We prefer you use that over the chat feature. We won't be able to keep up with the chat feature today. So definitely put all of your questions into the Q&A. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Alicia to introduce herself and get started with our presentation this morning.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that intro. As mentioned, my name is Alicia McCann. I'm a digital advertising specialist, and we'll discuss positioning your e-commerce business on social media platforms. So to get started here, next slide, we're going to pretty much discuss the platforms that are top standard in the industry for setting up your websites and anything related to your e-commerce that's going to drive home those customers, will drive those customers to you. So having your e-commerce business set up online is more important than ever today. And of course, that's because of the times we're dealing with. Everything is pretty much digital and headed there quicker than ever before. So whether you're selling your products or services, you need to have an online presence. It is very critical for your business today. You should have a website and or a marketplace because you're going to establish credibility with your customers more so than just selling on Facebook and Instagram. You know, those are great places to start and hone in on the customers that you want, but you don't want to just keep your customer base or really your presence online on Facebook or Instagram only. So instead, you want to make sure you leverage those big platforms to funnel your customers to your business. You can establish your online presence through having a professional website and an online marketplace. You can actually have both or just one because in reality, Squarespace, Shopify, and Wix, they do website hostings. So they're really great platforms for having your actual website feed in. And on the other end, they're really set up to manage a huge e-commerce portfolio that you set up for your business. And so with those being the top three really in the industry for the website building and really good with handling your e-commerce, an online marketplace such as Etsy is another great resource for just driving in those customers to finding your business. They're already set up. Just think of it as an online mall. And, they already have a very great established customer base. And having your online store on that platform can be also great for you as well, especially during holiday seasons and different things going on with that. So, all right. And then next, we'll talk about who your target audience is. This is extremely important when you're deciding where to set up your marketplace. Well, actually more so your social media. So if you were thinking about who your actual target audience, your answer should not be everyone. Although eventually I'm sure you'll want everyone to be your customer, everyone is not your customer because you need to figure out who those particular people are that are purchasing your service or your product and go out and try to reach them on the platforms that they're already located on. So understanding the persona and interest of your primary audience is critical to developing a marketing strategy and overall dynamic brand message. So just ask yourself these 3 questions when thinking about who your audience is. And I want to say before I get into the questions, if you have not established your business just yet and you're kind of just playing around with, figuring out who your customer is without actually knowing, there's still ways to figure that out also. So if you're established, think about the persona of your audience. What's their age range? What is their lifestyle? What is their shopping habits and their location? Those are all different things that contribute to the persona of your audience. And then think about what problems your audience face. What is the reason why they're coming to you for your product? People are seeking companies that solve a problem for them. So understanding what problems your audience have and how your company will be the solution will help guide your campaign messaging and advertising direction overall when you're showing up on these online platforms. And then also think about where your audience spends the most time online. So this is where social media comes into play. Because when I said you're not only going to use social media for your online platforms, you're still going to leverage it really heavily to 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 reel in your audience wherever they may be. So think about where your audience may hang out, what type of activities they enjoy, um, and it's really important that you engage with your audience by showing them that your product can fit their lifestyle or help them accomplish the lifestyle that they want. So always keep those things in mind. Okay, so next, um, there's some tools in finding your target audience. When I first mentioned that if you're a business that doesn't have um, pretty much a customer base established yet, you can still figure out um, who those target customers are. But to start, if you're established, you can pull analytics from your Facebook business page or Instagram. They have a pretty neat tool for business accounts when they're set up to figure out what your audience looks like. And those are the demographics, such as the age, the location that they're in, and just whether they're male or female. Those things are really great to get a pretty baseline understanding of the customer. And you can pull analytics also from your website using tools such as Google Analytics to gather the data. And then, if you're not really a digital person right now, you can kick it old school and poll your current customers via email or in person when they're shopping with you. Have them fill out quick questionnaires. Everyone's not too tech savvy initially. So just to get something down, you can think about those old ways to talk to them, pen in hand, just writing and jotting down what you see, and then also having maybe surveys for them to fill out. And then as a new business, what you can really leverage on are websites such as census.gov, and there's another one, mybestsegments.com. Those things give you a pretty good idea of your audience when they're of your audience and other in the industry overall. So maybe not particularly for your business, but you can take a good look at what the industry standard is for your business to see what the audience typically looks like, just to get you a head start before you actually start discovering who your exact audience is for your business. So next, we'll talk about the platforms you can potentially use to leverage your customers when you're on social media. So remember, again, when you have an e-commerce business, you definitely have your website going, you have your marketplace going, where you have your large hub of the products you're going to be selling. But the social media is where you're going to capture and captivate the audience with what you're selling. So remember, you need to know where they're hanging out online. You need to be able to establish a clear line of communication directly to your audience. And actually, they may be in more places than one. So don't just stick to just one, test it out and see what happens when you post in different areas. So for example, if your business is selling stocks and bonds and your target audience is mature and retired investor, it's probably not going to benefit you to put a video on a platform such as TikTok. Because if TikTok is really more popular with teens and, early age adults who are having more fun. They're really not there to get into like the investing type of information. So, just keep it relevant to the platform that you're going to be posting on. And in turn, if you don't look it up and you decide to post on these platforms, you can actually turn something that was meant to be positive into a negative experience, because people maybe start posting rude comments or, getting the reverse effect of what you initially panned out for it to be. So just keep Um, Keep a good understanding of what each platform has and what they offer and what audience that they attract. Another good example is if you have a teen focused cell phone accessory as your product, you really may not want to put your ads on somewhere like LinkedIn, which is known for having a more mature minded audience. They're really there for business. As a LinkedIn fan, when I'm on there, when I'm scrolling just to see what's what, I've noticed that a lot of the audience there is not really receptive to like funny comedy type of posts, although some are. There's still like a huge debate on LinkedIn with like keeping that type of content off. So not everyone's open to those sorts of posts on that type of platform. So again, really just know where your audience is. And just to give a really quick plug, you see the main ones here. I listed the top 6 that are pretty much industry standard for social media platforms. But there's another one that's really taking storm that you may have heard about. I know it's invite only now, but Clubhouse has been really great for a lot of people that are just getting the word out about their business. It's a talk-based platform, but it's really great at being able to find people to connect to your network who you may have never bumped into before. So it just opens up a floodgate of possibilities. So keep your eyes open and always be willing to try the new technologies that are out there, even if you're not really like that type of person. It's always thinking about your business first and stepping in areas that you're not always comfortable with. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you here the platforms in a little bit of a more depth look. Keep in mind the statistics here on this chart may not be completely up to date, but they're still very much accurate. And when I say up to date, I mean maybe some of the things have changed as far as the numbers for the percentages, but they're very accurate. And not to go over everything into depth, but you can see just generally looking at Facebook, you get a good sense of what the age range for the people that are using that are 25 to 54, 60% female. So when you start to do the research on who your customer is and the age ranges and, the really deep down demographics, you'll start to be able to pick the platforms that you start to show up on. And I will say, even with statistics like this, you could still test the waters. Don't let someone else's opinion of what may not work for you let that be the end all say all. It's still okay to test the waters, take a dive in, and just do things that are not really typical for you just to see what results you get, because you really never know. But this chart is very informative. Okay, so on the next slide here, we'll talk about we got all that information, you know where to post on social media. Now what? So now it's time to post. And, you know, if you're thinking that, social media and e-commerce don't go together, they very much do, because you have to keep your audience aware of who you are. It's very important to keep yourself known and relevant on social media, because that's where you're streaming all of your customers. So now it's really time to post, post, post. This is where you start showing them your products. This is where you start giving them samples and examples of the services or products that you're selling. This comes in the form of ads, campaigns, silly posts. There's lots of ways to figure out what and how and when to post. One of the primary things that I'll say is you want to really get a good idea of your brand. Figure out what the tone of your brand is. If you know that you have like a more silly side of your brand, then you can decide to start posting in ways that resonate to keeping your brand authentic in that way. So, proper advertisement really comes into play here, and it should be clear to the customer what you're selling. And you always want to have opt-ins and join nows type of messaging on there, because these are the ways that you're funneling those customers from your social media straight to your e-commerce. So there's a very direct connection to social media and e-commerce here. So, don't get in the habit of making ads and posting ads and not giving customers clear direction, because a lot of times they're looking for those little join now or click here or sign up now buttons that really connect them to your platform. And again, that's why your platform should not just be on Facebook and social media. You need a relevant and trustworthy site to sell your products on. So that's going to be your website or marketplaces such as Etsy. So remember, keeping your social media very detailed is very important for the customer to actually know who you are. So just as you would keep your website informative and very clean and to the point, you're going to do the same thing with your social media. So I listed here a few things that you want to make sure your social media has for your potential customer. You want to make sure your profile header or bio is clearly describing who you are and what you do. You want to make sure your logo is the main image. That's debatable. You can maybe have something that shows your product in it, but the logo is my first choice for making sure those things are clear. You want to have a link to your website or your online store clearly visible. And this is where a lot of people miss the mark, because that header provides the open space for your website to be linked, and or your marketplace such as Etsy. This is where you want to link them. Don't show them all this great product and they have nowhere to go to purchase it. And you want to make sure you have other relevant contact information. So Facebook and Instagram is really great at having places to showcase telephone number, email address, those things that you can pretty much let the customer know how to contact you. And then the content overall should stay relevant to your brand. So that's a whole other course in itself, but just to touch quickly on content, when someone's scrolling your feed, it can be a mix between your product images, different memes, things that just stay on point to your brand and really suggest to the customer what your brand is like. So everything should always stay on brand. Then after you get into a rhythm, it's important that you track which platforms you receive the most engagement on. So this is where you're figuring out which platforms matter most to your brand and which really don't. So, you really won't get a good idea of what works until you actually get into it and start to post and see who's responding and figuring out your engagement. So you really want to make sure you keep track of that scheduling and that engagement that you're getting when you're posting on these sites. Okay, and so on the next slide, we'll talk about staying consistent. So it's not always easy to pick up your phone and post on this and post on that side and post here and there. It can get very just time consuming, but you don't want to not stay consistent and constantly engage your audience online. So this is where some really great software comes into play, because there's things that are out there that make it a lot easier and streamlines the process. So you're not constantly just picking up your phone, hopping into each app separately and doing this and that. It can be a lot. So some platforms that I really enjoy recommending to people are these here: Later, Buffer, Hootsuite, and Social Pilot. Um, Many, if not all, do have a free version, but you do get the most out of each one by just upgrading to the premium version. Doesn't mean you have to. You can still utilize what they offer with each one, but of course, as many softwares and platforms, upgrading to the premium will get you a little more of an enhanced experience. So just check those out for posting online. And again, those are just if you would like to connect with these. What they do is they will allow you to post one time, and they'll go ahead and post across mainly all of your social medias, the ones that they at least support. So it's not you posting to multiple sites. It's just you posting one time with their software, one login, and then they'll go ahead and make sure it posts to each one that it should. So that's something that you can definitely look into. A lot of questions that I hear about social media is, how often should I post? So, every post, every platform has different recommendations. On average, I have heard that sometimes they're saying post up to 6 times per day. That can be a lot. But all in all, I would really recommend that you just see what your audience likes. I've personally posted once or twice per day. Then I kind of went down to maybe posting once or twice per day, but just maybe 3 or 4 times per week. So just see what your customer needs. All of this changes, of course, when you have things that you're promoting, such as campaigns, sales, advertisements, coupons. Those things all play a factor in how often you want to post. It's a very thin line between constantly posting and becoming annoying to the customer. So you just want to make sure you get a feel for what they like, and, don't overdo it, because you don't want someone to stop following you or unsubscribe or any of that. But it is good to constantly stay in their presence to remind them, hey, I have a sale going on. Here's how it benefits you, and click to take advantage of this. Okay, and on the next slide, we'll talk really quick on paid ads on social media. Um, this is a really great way to leverage getting customers that you don't normally attract. Actually, customers that aren't even attached to your page or your business profile. So when you're paying for ads on social media, the point is literally to reach them, because they're not currently engaged with you. So posting on social media is good for reaching your audience, and then paying for the ad is great for reaching those who don't know of you yet. So you definitely can grow your page this way, get new customers this way. It's definitely worth looking into for your business, depending on, what you're looking for and who you're trying to reach. Of course, you'll know your own demographics as you play with your um, statistics there. But, the difference would be if someone has a service based in like Buffalo only, and obviously they can't get to somewhere like Florida. This is when like the details of what you're paying for and ads come into play. So obviously you're not trying to reach someone in Canada or Mexico. You really want to make sure that you're reaching the audience that you're actually trying to get. And another little insight on these social media platforms is I strongly recommend growing your audience organically. You don't want to like start paying for followers and likes and everything. Paying for ads has nothing to do with that. But I hear a lot of people ask, should I be paying for more followers? Should I be paying for more likes on my page? And those things don't matter if those likes and those follows are not getting you actual customers. So don't get too caught up into like the numbers and how many people are following you. Stay more consistent with your sales and tracking how many people are clicking and going to your website. Okay, so next, we'll talk about email marketing. This is one of my favorite topics. I absolutely love email marketing because to me it never gets old. And I know a lot of times I've heard in the past where people said, "Oh, email marketing is dead," but in my opinion, it's definitely not. It's a great way to leverage customers that may just be, not really consumed with social media all the time, but they're very much into their emails and staying up on, what's going on and different deals that your emails would have there. Um, so I would say, think heavily about your email marketing. You want to definitely make sure that you have some sort of um, audience going with that. You want to make sure you're collecting emails and, getting people to sign up and subscribe, because those are customers that you're reaching outside of social media. And one thing I love to say is if Instagram and Facebook and all of that went down today, how would you be communicating with your customer? You do have the website and everything, hoping that they do click and scroll on there, but you want to make sure you can still reach your audience through other channels besides social media. So email marketing, as old as it is, it still works. And it's a great way of sending out to your group of people that are already attached to your audience. So what I did was I listed a great list here of just benefits of having email marketing. And you can reach a global audience. It's very easy to share. It's easy to measure. It's easy to get started, drive your revenue, deliver targeted messages, and reach an already engaged audience. And they're low cost. What I'll say is, I've answered questions about people that say, well, hey, I don't have an email list. What do I do? And one of the oldest tricks for me is I looked in my wallet and I said, hey, I have some business cards. So I literally would start to use the emails and the contacts that I've gained from my business cards and create email lists. Don't throw those business cards out if you haven't collected those emails, because that's a pivotal point of data that you should be collecting. One thing that I know that I can personally testify to is I had an event that I was helping to uh, generate an audience for. They were actually in Toronto, really had no audience here, and so I was the primary connection con- for curating an audience for them from scratch. So I'm like, okay, I need a network. I need someone to advertise these flyers to for joining the event. And I said, hey, I literally had a thick stack of business cards because I never throw them out. So what I did was I generated a list based on the ones in that stack who I felt matched the demographics of the event we were putting on. And I can tell you now that we did make a few sales off of that list. So never underestimate the power of a good email list and connecting to them. And this is another rule of thumb. You do not want to get too crazy in advertising in your email list, because I can't tell you how much I've seen people kind of overdo it. And I'm constantly getting emails, I would say, make more than once per day sometimes. So I literally would need to unsubscribe. There's subtle ways to do it and at the same time remain consistent without overdoing it and being overbearing on your audience. And what I did was I listed some really great resources for email marketing rather: MailChimp, Sendinblue, Klaviyo, GetResponse, and Mailer. So those are all great to establishing your email marketing chain, and they're great at sending the emails for you.
Alicia, we have a couple of questions that came in. I thought maybe we could jump
Yeah,
into a few of them before we go to the next slide.
for sure. Hmm.
Okay, so the first one is about followers versus likes. Do you have an opinion on which is more important? Is it better to have more likes or more followers? How do you think about that?
I think about it in the sense of followers being more important than likes. If someone's liking some content on your page, it's cool and all, but the next time you go to post, if they're not actually following, then they won't be able to see the next post that you're posting. So you want to really convert a like to becoming your follower. Maybe engage with them on their page, go and figure out who they are, why they may be liking it. Um, the follower to me has far more weight than just the like, if we're talking likes on the actual like post.
And we have a couple of questions on email marketing. The first one was I see constant contact is not on your list of providers. Is there a reason for that?
Constant contact as far as the email provider?
Mhm.
No, you know what? It's only because there's actually so many. And that one I've heard about. I've never personally used it before, but there's literally maybe, I would say, an additional to the list I have, maybe about a good 5 or 6 more that you could still look into. So there's a lot of those email clients. That one is one that I have heard of. I just don't have personal experience using it.
Yeah, and I've used it. We use Mailchimp here, and I would say from a layout perspective, I think there's a lot more options in some of the newer platforms out there. I would say that that's a difference I've noticed. I used Constant Contact probably about 10 years ago, so it's been a while, and maybe they've updated quite a bit, but I know there were a lot of limitations in the different kinds of layouts that you could use. They didn't have as many graphics, like free graphics, that were usable. So I think there's a lot of great options out there, and it's really a matter of probably budget and functionality that you're looking for.
And real quick, I actually also didn't list Ascend. If I update this, I would absolutely add Ascend. Ascend is part of Wix's platform. So they're really good because you get that connection with your actual Wix if you're a Wix client, and then Ascend being attached to it. One of the downsides I find of having like an off brand mail client that's separate from your website is sometimes it's hard to get the two connected, especially if you're not like encoding and everything. It can be a little difficult. Myself as a graphic designer, I'm not like always privy to some of the newer ways to connect the MailChimp and then the Wix. So I found that to be quite a problem for myself, merging my subscribers that I got with my platform that I already established on MailChimp. So Ascend is another good one that's already attached to Wix, and they realize the power in being able to have the two connected.
And then how about the frequency of sending out to your email list? Is once a week email effective? Do you have a preference in terms of how often?
I would say once a week is good, if not maybe a little light. It is. I would say that's a little light, but it's also acceptable also because when I was talking about overdoing it, there are some people. I get an email from one lady maybe once, definitely daily, but I think if I'm remembering correctly, it's at least twice a day, and I've always see her just pop out. I'm like, it's frustrating to me, not because I don't care what she has to say, but I constantly think of the storage in my in my mailbox, and because I know Google is really they're really sensitive about the number of emails, and I'm a high email sending type of person. I have to stay on top of my storage, and when I see someone constantly sending stuff that may actually not benefit me, I think of my storage, and I just get annoyed. I'm like, okay, I'm unsubscribing. This is too much.
That's a great way to think about it. And one participant commented, and just I want to share this with the group, that Mailchimp and Shopify have some integrations too. So if you're using Shopify, Mailchimp might be a good choice to make.
Hmm. And I think they may have one with Klaviyo too. Their Klaviyo is a little newer, but they have they have a high preference on one of the sites, and it may also be Shopify, which I think that integration is really smart for people because when I say sometimes it can be really difficult to link up, it can be, especially because they want you to do coding in the background, and it's just a lot sometimes.
Okay, and one person asked, I have a list of 20,000 names. Do you know any other platforms where I can use those names?
Now, more specifically, are you saying like usernames for email marketing?
Meaning email, yeah. Email address.
I would say these, for me, are the ones I'm familiar with. 20,000 names is a lot, so that's a great number, actually. Um, and I'm not sure if you're also thinking of more ways to engage with them other than email, but I would say importantly having the statistics on those names would also be important. And I say that because you don't just want to have the emails without knowing who's who, and it might help you sort your data in a more efficient way of thinking about how to utilize that market, so you're not getting a lot of unsubscribers from those lists if you're sending them things that aren't really important to them. Getting the data, the hard data on those emails, I would think would be important too.
Yeah, and I know if they're not expecting your email and you get a high unsubscribe rate, that can actually blacklist you from some of these platforms. So that it's a little bit of a dangerous game if you're using emails from other platforms and people that didn't sign up for your list.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
you bringing that up, when I was doing my research, I'm like, I was trying to figure out why it wouldn't benefit someone to do like that purchasing of those lists. And that's literally what came up. Because in my mind, I'm like, do people sell lists and do people buy them? And if so, is it good or is it bad? And that's the first thing that popped up because it's like, once you hit those spam boxes and it becomes a trend, you're just losing your credibility as an email sender. That
Right.
was definite right there.
Okay. I think we're ready for the next slide.
Okay, and this one is actually the final slide. I just wanted to list some of the great resources online for advertising your business, always keeping your e-commerce business up in the forefront. You don't want to miss out on the free and useful resources that you can take advantage of online. So remember, most can actually generate traffic to your business for new customers. These are platforms that already have an established base, and just keep it in the back of your mind. Utilizing um, platforms that have great credibility is always going to be a win-win for you because they always have their own customer base, and it works really well for you just attaching yourself to them. I listed these. I'll give a small description on how I feel about them. So Facebook Marketplace, I probably would not give them a high rating. It's there. It will get you seen, but it's also to me kind of like it's just, what is that? Craigslist? It gives me Craigslist vibes. It's not like the priority for selling on the marketplace, but just one of those small places that know that you can use it. It's there, it's free, something you can consider depending on the type of business you have. Another resource I like is connecting to those Facebook pages. Everyone's not completely off the Facebook trend. I know for the younger generation, there's not many Facebook users that, or that they don't really tend to love Facebook as much. But for the established, more mature client, they may still be on there. There's some really great pages that Facebook has that these people have created. I've only listed like the small or the local ones: 716 Small Businesses, Buy Sell Trade, 716, Western New York Community Bulletin Board. Those are great. I actually like to get myself connected though with the national ones. They have a lot of resources and women that post constantly. I think I just bumped into like Oprah's hairstylist on one. It's called like Women Helping Women Globally or something like that. It's really awesome because you never know who's in there looking for something or who's trying to collaborate. You get a lot of people trying to cross promote, put people on their podcast. Just look for those Facebook pages that have a high following. And the one that I'm in, I think it's like maybe 400,000. So it's pretty active. Usually when you think of Facebook pages, you're like, oh, no one's in there. But that one, they're pretty active and I made some good connections there. And it's actually good for posting when you have questions about your business. You can get opinions. They're very open and honest, but also respectful there. So I've seen people post things like, hey, what do you think I should do for my logo? This one or that one, and really good feedback. So think about just leveraging that for different things. Um, and then I added Yelp. I'm a strong advocate for Yelp. I love Yelp. Personally, just looking for businesses to go and get food from. I'm always on Yelp for that. They're very trustworthy, in my opinion. But on the flip side, they're amazing for your business. And so when I mentor through Weedy, one of the clients that I help is actually in the West Side Bazaar. And I told her, I'm like, you already have the ratings on Yelp. So now just go ahead and claim your business profile. So she had people doing the reviews there, but what she hadn't leveraged yet was actually claiming the business as her own. And what that gave her was the opportunity to post coupons, to actually do check-in offers and different promotions. So it's a wonderful, already established free method of posting your business. And of course, this is going to depend on what your business is. So of course, food and maybe like personal services, but not so much like products. That may be like taxes or something like that. So, or services that are like taxes. You just want to know that your market is actually on Yelp. So it's important to research. And then Google Business Profile, pretty generic, but it's getting you set up in a more official way. So when you're being Googled on online, it establishes your business so that people can find you right away. So, you want to make sure your profile is up there and it's strong and it's showing people your hours and your phone number and your website and linking people to you. So just utilize those free places that are online already because you never know who may find you stumbling across one of your listings on their sites. And then I added the paid ones on the bottom because my mind is always thinking about the future. I was really light on these, but just always making sure you're in the digital realm. And that's a huge thing that you want to think about for your business going forward is how can I digitally stay relevant? So I found that some people are really starting to get into the voice search services where if someone's Googling something, Alexa and Google can recommend your business. A lot of people are looking into that. And then Apple Maps, they also have services where they'll make sure that people are getting your establishment to pop up when they're searching for certain things. So those are not the only two. One of the two popular ones, but there's so much that you always want to make sure your business is staying digitally relevant in. So always think about where we're going in the future. Just a little tiny tidbit: look into those conferences and different tech summits that they have, because if you're staying up on the curve, then you already kind of know what to expect. So I like to do things like that, like go to like the CES summits and just making sure I'm understanding where technology is going. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for the social media platforms and e-commerce.
Thanks, Alicia. We do have some questions. The first one is in regards to Instagram. Since there is a limited way to utilize hyperlinks for individual posts, do you recommend any platforms for the link in bio?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So a lot of people are using like those link trees. I think that's the correct name. So once you click the link one time, the link tree will open up a huge, pretty much listing of different sites that you want to advertise. So, and Linktree is not the only one. I actually have heard website builders say if you make a link that's attached to your website that literally has all the links that you want to connect people to, even putting that one link in your profile will get them to see everything listed. So, what it is a way to utilize that one click link in that profile to opening up all of the things that you have going on, whether you're trying to promote a campaign, a class that you're doing. This is going to be a full list of other links that they can click just from clicking that one link.
Great, thank you. And then for Google Business, do you need to have a Gmail account to utilize Google for Business?
Actually, I believe once you set up your account with Google at all, you're automatically getting a Gmail account. So Google is the hub, and once you're creating your online account, I think Gmail is automatically attached to that, if I'm not mistaken, because Gmail or Google has many services that a lot of people don't really even know about. You automatically get Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets. All of those things are actually just embedded in your overall Google account. So, if I'm understanding correctly, I actually believe Gmail is automatically attached to your account once you set it up, but I don't think you have to have it to connect it, but I'm not too sure.
Great, we can look into that too. Um, any other questions, please feel free to share in the Q&A. I did have one question, Alicia, in terms of the e-commerce platforms like Shopify, Wix, and others, do you have a personal favorite that you like, or does it depend on the product?
Well, getting into those types of platforms, Shopify is pretty much the leader right now, and it's because they're pretty much like the industry standard for having the capacity to handle large e-commerce. So they're pretty much like the hub. Wix and Squarespace, they have the ability to have sales on there, but a lot of times what you'll see is these websites will actually integrate Shopify into the back end, because Shopify is like the bigger e-commerce platform. And at least like more well established than the others to have that huge platform for processing everything. So they're really good with the payments, and I think that the technology with Shopify is just more state of the art than the other two. But they definitely have the option to integrate at least Wix, because they're really good at what is that called, apps. So you can integrate different things on the back end, such as Shopify, for your actual e-commerce.
And we have someone who's asking, where does GoDaddy stand in relation to Shopify and Wix?
Okay, to so for GoDaddy, they're where you purchase your domain, but I'm wondering if the question is more so if you should use GoDaddy for purchasing the domain, or
And I mean, they do hosting as well, so I don't know, because you can host
oh,
Shopify or GoDaddy. But I assume if you're getting a Shopify account, you get hosting.
Possibly, because okay, so for Wix, when you go ahead and you download and you get their service, they actually will give you a free domain for a year. I'm a Google girl. So although Wix offered me that, I said no and I had rather paid for Google. And the reason I'm saying this is I feel like Google is the industry top standard. They're the ones that have most of the analytics and can help drive most of the data to what you're looking for. I'm not a very strong advocate for GoDaddy. And maybe because back in the day when I had it and I let my domain like expire, they tried to like upcharge me times three. But yeah, I love Google for all things. Domains they're very strong in my opinion and trustworthy. I don't feel as trustworthy with GoDaddy, but I guess that's just how that because of my experience. But as far as industry standard and having the analytics attached to your domain and the power of all of the software and resources they offer, I think they're top. But
Great.
again, get a domain through Wix. I'm sure Shopify may offer it. To me, just Google is top for those items.
And then, Alicia, can you talk a little bit about the difference between social media and e-commerce?
Yeah, so your e-commerce is actually where people are going to search and shop for you. So let's think of um, like a website you're going to shop for clothes. The website, when you go on that website, that's their e-commerce platform, and that's where you're purchasing the items. But they may have actually attracted you through their social media site. You may have seen one of the models wearing their dresses, like, oh my gosh, I love that. You're not purchasing it from Facebook. You're not purchasing it from Google. They're actually funneling you in to their website. So they may say shop now. A lot of cool features about Instagram is they'll have like that shop now feature sometimes where you can click it and it'll open like the browser right over the Instagram, and then now you're in their web page shopping. But the e-commerce is the primary point of where the customer is going to shop for your product or service. The social media is just the hub to introduce them to you and how to get there.
Yeah, that
Hopefully I broke it down.
yeah, so social media is promotional and e-commerce is where your customer is going to go actually make that purchase or conversion.
Yeah, so your website is your e-commerce hub. Your social media is just that, like you said, the promotion to funnel them there.
Awesome. Well, Alicia, I think that's all the questions we have for today. I can't thank you enough for this super informative webinar. We already got lots of comments from the participants that this was
Oh,
really helpful. And we also recorded this. So if you want to watch it again or share with friends or colleagues, this is something that we will send to everyone via email as well. And we'll share it with you, Alicia. So
okay.
thank you so much for everything today.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, 43 North and Weedy, for considering me. This was an awesome experience, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.